I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, July 26th, brought to you in part by Legacy Beef Co-op, the cooperative that is to own 20% share of Cattleman's Heritage Beef Plant near Council Bluffs, Iowa. Protect your cattle assets by putting $25 down for a deposit to assure yourself a spot in Cattleman's Heritage Beef. For the cost of insuring 2 head of fat cattle, you can buy a space in Legacy Beef Co-op. We are now on the second round of 60,000 units that will sell for $150 per unit, and that is your annual right to send a cattle into the Cattleman's Heritage Beef Plant there. But take a few minutes and watch the video that I'm going to attach at the end of this feeder flash episode. It's an interview to learn more and all about Legacy Beef Co-op, guys. Also, Unionville Livestock Market and Creston Livestock Markets, that's in northern Missouri and southern Iowa there. Kurt and Heather Spore Leader, and then of course Cody Fry on the Creston Livestock Market too in partnership. But man, they had a whale of a sale in Unionville on Tuesday. The best consignor there, Rockin' R, or Smokin' R's, they had the top quote of the day on the feeder flash, if you remember that just a few episodes ago. But on Tuesday they sold 5 loads of backgrounded steers, weighed 878 and brought 269. Wow, that's a big time quote there, guys. Be sure to mark your calendars for the big barbecue special, customer appreciation special. It's going to be in Creston, Iowa on August the 21st. Red meat restrictions. Have you ever fallen under red meat restrictions? Maybe your wife or your doctor has put you on a red meat restriction due to your health, some kind of a checkup there, or your cholesterol or something like that. You know, that is one thing, looking out for you. How about if your leader or your president puts you under a red meat restriction? Well, we've got one running for president now that says she will change the way that Americans eat, and will do that through red meat restrictions. Now, before you guys say, oh, why do you got to be talking about politics on the feeder flash? Hey, when you've got a politician that says she's going to change the way we eat by putting a limit on red meat intake in this country, if that doesn't have to do with the cattle market, I don't know what the hell will. But this is not a fair and balanced report here. I'm totally biased in the conservative direction and always will be. So if you can't stand to hear it, just plug your ears for a little bit, and then we'll get on with the quotes for the day. But I tell you what, guys, this is getting real. We're not that far out from our election here, and she can come in and sweep and change this thing, everything. Guys, she wants to change everything we do. She is by far more liberal than President Magoo. She was the most liberal congressperson in the Congress, especially in the Senate, whenever she was in there. And she's all about changing everything. No more plastic straws, defunding the police. It's just getting rid of internal combustion engines, doing all these things that are going to change our life, change the way we live, especially if you're a cattle producer, guys. All those things are going to infringe on us. She's a San Francisco liberal. You guys remember the city up there in Northern California where you have to wear your overboots just to walk down the city street. But I tell you what, she's not good for the way we want to live, and I don't care. And a lot of you may be Kennedy Democrats. She is not anywhere close to that, guys. We have to do that. And you think, well, why are you preaching to the choir? Well, I have about 150,000 listeners here just on YouTube every month, and probably half again that many on the other ways that we put this report out. And if I can change one person's vote, I want to do it, guys. Of all the things she's been, she's been a mistress, she's been a side piece. She's not something that we want to put up out front of us, leading us for the world. I tell you what, it's a scary deal. This bounce that she's gotten here since Magoo went down and put her in his place without any of the voters' say. I mean, he's just taken all those delegate votes that he's got and basically handed them to her. But we've got to push back on this, guys. We had fat cattle trade some on Thursday. It seems that the Northern Plains they've not gotten what they want, so they haven't traded their cattle yet. If they don't gain some ground, we're going to close that gap a little bit between the North and the South there, because the Southern Plains has already established their market $2 higher, and we haven't seen anything but a little drip of trade in the Northern Plains, and it's been mostly $2 lower. So is that what's going to happen this week? I doubt it. I think them Northern Plains guys will really dig in, and it may be a Friday evening trade if they don't start ponying up here to get the price on. Tell you what, these feeder cattle are selling like hotcakes this week, and the board's been pretty friendly so far this week, except for on Wednesday there. But man, come back strong on Thursday, up big on Tuesday. The Elite Livestock Sales had a special video sale there right outside Montgomery, Alabama on Thursday afternoon, and it was a humdinger, guys. The Shelton farm there from Woodland, Alabama sold a load of weaned steers on there with a base weight of 800 pounds. They are for immediate delivery. Home raised kind of red Angus and black, come out of Beaver red Angus bulls there, guys, but a load of 800-pound weaned steers there, home raised right there in Alabama. Bring 265.10 and deliver here later this week or early next, guys. Wow. Big time sale there on Elite Livestock Sales. I'm proud to call those guys my friends. They are hustling. They had cattle from North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, all over that southeastern country, guys, and they're doing a good job of marketing those cattle for those people, and good job to them. Let's talk about your board on Thursday. August live cattle futures were up $2. Wow, who saw that coming? $188.90. And so, you know, it was going to be hard to get the Southern Plains to take 188 again when August live cattle are 188.90. So the 190 that they got is still just $1, a little over $1 basis, and they're used to a whole lot more than that. Now, there's quite a bit in the Northern Plains, but there may not be if they don't gain some ground this week. But October live cattle up 232 at 188.60. Your back months were up, the farthest out not quite as much, but closer. They were up quite a bit, but up 15 cents to up 162. Feeder cattle for August up $1.50 at 258.62. September up $1.20 at 257.90. Back months on feeder cattle also up from 32 cents to up 70, right in the face of higher grains. December corn on Thursday afternoon at the settlement up 2 3/4 cents a bushel at 420 3/4. November beans up 15.5 at 1079.5, and Kansas City hard red winter wheat down 6 cents at 561.5. Fat cattle trade, like I said, not much in the Northern Plains. Iowa's only sold 1,100 head for the week. They normally sell 25 or 30,000. But Thursday they sold 400 head up through 2 o'clock there, and what little dab that they sold, they had some live sales at 196. That'd be about $2 lower than last week. Some 308, which would be $2 lower dressed than last week. Not too whippy in the Northern Plains, and I don't think they're going to sell many cattle that way. Nebraska has only sold 900 cattle all week, 300 head of them on Thursday. Just some mixed bag steers and heifers there at 195. Kansas sold 4,400 on Thursday and over 7,000 for the week, with live prices ranging from 187 all the way to 195, but mostly 190, and that's mostly $2 higher. Texas sold only a couple hundred head, 800 head for the week, but I think they started swinging more gates after 2 o'clock, but it was 190, which was $2 higher. Fed Cattle Exchange started out some trade in the Southern Plains there earlier in the day on Thursday. They sold some beef on dairy cattle Good top quality cattle that the packers really like. The beef on dairy crosses at 191, bid the grid base. Box beef cutout values, mixed and choice a little bit lower again. Choice down 22 cents at 312.46. You guys can report that as much lower as you want. We're not going to feel sorry for you. You never feel sorry for the cattle people whenever you got them over the barrel. Selects were up $1.15 at 295.11. Your slaughter through the first 4 days of the week, 480,000. That's 5,000 more than the previous week. At the same time, 17,000 less than the same week a year ago. Actual slaughter information come back for the week ending July the 13th. Had your average dressed steer carcass weight at 915 pounds. That was 1 pound lighter than the previous report. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services. That's Dakota Moss and all these agents. Now look at all the different agents that we've got listed here. Find you one that's close to you. Maybe one of you, maybe you know one of these people there. But they're all in and around Oklahoma there. So, you know, anybody in the country could be fairly close to a corner there somewhere. But these guys are in the business. They know the business. They know the LRPs. They can help you. You've got to protect yourself, guys. We've got a lot farther to go down than we do up. And you got to protect yourself. And you can do it with an LRP and get it from the LRP specialists. Check them out at livestockriskservices.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction. Late in the day on Thursday, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, setting at 258.45, down 74 cents from late Wednesday. Of course, we had some real premium sales there on Wednesday. Your CME cash feeder cattle index very close to that at 259.06. Talking about your big sales on Thursday. Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas had a good sale, 2,400 head there. They called all classes of feeder cattle $7 to $10 higher. This is the King of the Ring weekend, guys. So they'll be having a High Plains video. They're going to have the big King of the Ring special, looking like 8,000 grass yearlings in Dodge City, Kansas at Winter Livestock on Saturday. Wished I was going to be there for the golf scramble that they're going to have this weekend, and could beat John Campbell's team again. But they had a good sale there in Pratt, Kansas on Thursday. They sold spayed heifers, 69 head of them, weighed 779 through the ring in Pratt, Kansas for $264.25. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas had a lot of grass yearling steers in there. Other classes were not well tested, but your big 800 to 1,000 pound grass steers coming right off the blue stem there sold $2 to $4 higher. Looked at your automated market report. There was 852 head of 8-weight grass steers there in Salina. The average date 61 with a weighted average price of $254.96. The 9 weights, they had 496 head of them. They averaged 950 pounds on the button with a weighted average price of $241.66. But Paris Stockyards, look at some other individual quotes around. Paris, Kentucky Stockyards, they sell them high there too, guys. They sold some heifers in Paris, Kentucky, 172 head of them, weighed 600 pounds, bring $286.85. Pretty smoky right there. I got to give a shout out to my buddy Mike Frieden from Northwest Missouri. He works and commissions cattle into Maryville Livestock Auction in Maryville, Missouri. That's Tommy Runyon there. That sale is up and coming. It's on the rise, guys. Mike Frieden had his personal steers in there on Thursday, including in that 67 steers that weighed 930 pounds that bring $247.25, backgrounded on grass there in Fawcett, Missouri. Good job to Mike there. How about Ogallala Livestock Auction in Ogallala, Nebraska? They sold 87 steers, weighed 901 at $263.50. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday, and your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Mitchell Livestock Marketing, DV Auction broadcaster there. They sold 61 steers, weighed 910 pounds at $268.50. And that's your feeder flash for Friday. I'm Corbett Wall with this feeder flash feature. I'm here with Chad Tinniger from Legacy Beef Co-op and Cattlemen's Heritage. And we're going to give you some information about getting in on the ground floor of a co-op that's going to own part of Cattlemen's Heritage, a new privately owned packing plant. Hopefully we'll give you an opportunity to stay profitable and stay in the cattle feeding business and compete with the big four packers. How you doing today, Chad?
Good, Corbett. Glad to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about this new and exciting venture that you got going?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we started out, Legacy Co-op is a outshoot of Cattlemen's Heritage Beef Company, the new processing plant outside of Council Bluffs. That'll be 525,000 head a year. We'll be processing right outside of Council Bluffs off of the I-29 corridor over there. We got about 132 acres. We've cleared the land. We're ready to break ground next spring. And Legacy Co-op will be the supply of the cattle that will feed that plant with the producer involvement.
Okay, so all the cattle that come into that plant will be through Legacy Co-op.
That is the goal, yes. We want to make sure that the producer has a say in how the plants run, the say in how the market works. All these things that we as producers, when I put my producer cap on, I want to get the best value for my cattle. Well, I don't think there's any way I can ever get the best value for my cattle if I don't participate in the processing end of it, because obviously in the last decade we've seen very clearly that the only way we're ever going to get what we think we deserve is to actually participate in the ownership.
Okay, so you say these co-op members are going to have a say in what goes on at the plant. How's that going to work?
So how we've set up the co-op is it's buying shares. One share is one delivery obligation a year. So there's 525,000 shares up for sale. Once you deliver your cattle, what you're going to gain in the beginning is you're going to get access to a grid. Everybody knows how grid works, premiums and discounts. But our grid's going to be tied to the box beef cutout. We are not going to tie it to the CME. We fundamentally believe that the CME does not represent the cattle fundamentals in the country on a day-to-day basis. I think we could all agree to that. There's no traders in the pits anymore. There's no human contact. It's computer algorithms trading on headlines, and we're at the mercy of it. So beginning, the fundamental belief is let's tie it to the box beef cutout. At least then we know we got a fair shake. You also, if you're a member of the co-op, you get a $25 bonus every time you deliver. So automatically it's $25 more than you would have got anywhere else. And then at the end of the day, for buying into the co-op, that co-op is going to have roughly, give or take, 20% ownership in Cattlemen's Heritage Beef Company. So true ownership in the plant, in the company, in the brand, whatever we can create out of this, you have ownership in and get a margin in those profits.
So these unit shares, you assume they're going to gain in value as time goes on.
Every other company that we've looked at like this in the pork industry, there's more of these companies with producer involvement. All those shares just increase in value. You can sell them, you can, your kids can inherit them, pass it down, but ultimately you have a say in how the system works that you're participating in.
So you're offering producers an opportunity to get in on the ground floor.
Yeah, I've been in this business my whole life, and we as producers, my whole life we've been saying, we don't have any say in how we sell our product, what comes from it, we're at the mercy of everybody. This is an opportunity to be in the ground floor at the cheapest you're going to get in to actually take ownership in a company that you'll participate in. We've set it up. The Cattlemen's Heritage will have its own board. The co-op will have its own board. They will work together hand in hand in an advisory board. Each board will have two members of the other. So we have true ownership in the game. So when we talk about how are we going to sell cattle or how's the grid going to work exactly, you're going to have a seat at the table with us deciding those very things.
So the plan itself, you're expecting to pretty much run on a consistent margin and then the extra money is going to be premiums for the producer?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple system. You tie a grid to a set point. We're going to tie it to the box beef cutout. Then you have to plant production. You can't break the plant, right? It costs X amount to run. You minus that out, and then you start on quality of cattle. You're still going to be paid for quality cattle on a premium discount basis. That would be very similar to how grid works today. One thing we are looking at pretty closely that we might change, especially when you get discounts on 4s and 5s. Right. In today's world, in reality, there is not really much of a discount on a 4. And what's heading coming up that a lot of people probably don't realize, but 45Z, it's a huge tax credit that's coming on the tax code for anything biofuels. That's what all the ethanol industry is doing. That's what they're talking about. That's why they're paying you. Well, our fats and tallows in the cattle are worth gold right now going to the biodiesel, and we're not getting a part of that. And there's going to be yet another revenue stream that we won't see. So, you know, when you start adding up all the value adds that we as producers do, that we don't participate in, at a certain point in time, all of us producers are just saying, I'm doing the most I will do to create value that I don't get to participate in.
So we talked about the cattle. What kind of cattle are you looking for?
We're just really looking for northern western genetics, right? That's going to be the cattle, the kind of cattle we feed where we are. If you put a pin in Council Bluffs, that's where the plant will be. You go 300 miles in any direction, that's a lot of high quality cattle. And so we're not going to limit it to just black hided or anything like that. It'll be just all quality cattle because the system's still set up. You deliver quality, you'll make more money.
Okay, so no particular program. Yeah. It's just where you're at on the globe, that's the kind of cattle you want.
That's exactly right.
Type cattle.
Yeah, and the system will work that if somebody thinks they're going to deliver really bad cattle, the negatives will still be there. Yeah. So it doesn't work. It still functions the same. And within that, over time, again, will there be programs that maybe develop like anything does? There could be. If there's more value at the end, of course, why wouldn't we bring it back into the plant? And then again, the co-op will own 20% of the plant, so it's a true dividend at the end of the year.
So are you looking at that Cattleman's Heritage having a retail label?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the end goal is create a brand. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the last 3 years. We're 3 years into due diligence of this plant. That's why we're so confident in where we are today. What we've discovered is the cattle industry has done the worst job ever of telling its story of its greatest asset, and that's the farmers and ranchers and producers. We have all these amazing men and women working every day in this industry. We don't tell their story.
Right.
You know, so we're going to tell the story. Our marketing is going to be, you know, look at these family farmers, look at the ranchers, look at what they do every day. When they don't do a good job, they lose farms. They lose their livelihood. So you better believe if anything in the world of doing the best quality for what you're putting on your kitchen table, it comes out of our farmers and ranchers.
How are you going to compete with the Big Four?
So there's a couple ways. We have done 3 years of due diligence to figure out why plants don't work when they don't work. What causes a failure, right? Undercapitalized, we have the capital. Bad location, that I cannot overstate having a bad location. We're outside of Council Bluffs. There's 1 million people right outside that door. So we have plenty of work. The other thing we look at is, how do you compete? That's the question, right? How do you compete? Well, the co-op will be a supply of cattle. That's a bunch of producers that have signed up to deliver cattle because they want to share in the upside profits. So on the front side, you can't outbid the cattle. Those cattle are already committed. They're coming in, and they're committed because they're going to get rewarded better. Mm-hmm. So we know we'll have the cattle supply coming into the plant. Then selling the beef, what we found over the last 3 years is, as frustrated as we get as producers that we can only really sell to a handful of companies, on the retail side, there's a lot of frustration on that end too, that they only get to buy from a couple of companies. So we've been contacted by over 80 companies to buy beef today.
But at this point, you haven't gone into partnership with any prospective customers?
We haven't yet, but we're finalizing some of that. We will have a major partner on offer.
I think you need to.
And we will. We're working through that. So what we wanted to make sure is, A, do we have the capital to build? Can we build the right plant, a highly efficient plant? Are we in the right location? Once we cleared all those hurdles, that's a big part of what a retailer, an end user wants to know too.
Sure.
Do you guys have all your ducks in a row so when we're ready to buy meat? So before we break ground, we'll have a major partner signed up to buy the product. Another way that we've done that we feel is really important is, these old plants, they're old, they're tired, they're inefficient. They started by, processing 2,000 head a day, they're doing 5,000 head a day.
Right.
And, there's plants in this country that, if you built them today, might have 2 forklifts and they got 36 running around that plant, things like that. The way we've designed it with new technology, proven technology, our technology came out of Europe, New Zealand, and Australia. And the reason we're doing that is they hit their labor issues 20 years before we did. So in a world where labor's tight, especially in this industry, you got to be as efficient as you can. We will process 2,000 head a day. A typical plant takes 1,200 employees to do that. We'll have 800.
Wow.
400 less employees. That translates to $25 million a year in savings to the plant, which transfers $50 a head cheaper production cost. So our plant will operate at a cheaper per head production cost than any plant in the system. And that's where you get the margin. So when you start thinking about how they're going to squeeze you out, well, they'd have to start losing $100 a head where we start breaking even. And that's an important part of this that we looked at. Again, it's not that complicated to say, I'm going to go build a plant and then just go throw one up somewhere. What's complicated is be successful.
Right. And I assume you've got your team pretty well set, because you've got to have people that have experience in this kind of stuff, because it's a tough business.
Yeah, we get asked that a lot, and that's a really important question. And I make sure everybody knows today, I'm the head of the company. I will not be running a plant. That is not my expertise. I've never claimed to be that guy. But what we will do is, the beauty of what's happening in the system is, because there's just a few companies that really have the top guys out there, a lot of people retire 56 to 60 out of that world, and there's a lot of people, they're not even close to done. Right. There is so much talent in this space that's there to available. We've identified it. We've hired advisors from day one. So I have an advisor that his entire job is just to identify that talent and make sure that when we open our doors, we have the right talent in place. Because there's another way. If you want to fail, just don't put the team together. You know, try and save money on your management team. That's a great way to fail.
So, you know, we're looking for some new co-op members, and how much risk do you think there is involved in this?
What we've done is we went 2.5 years and we talked to producers and got all their point of views and heard every comment we could talk about. And at the end of the day, we developed this program we're in today. And this is the final program we're going out. So what it is, there's various stages of the co-op membership. You are rewarded to get in early. The first round, there's 5 rounds. The first round is $125 a unit. It goes up $25 every round. It's split pretty evenly through the rounds. So that's not a huge investment in the cattle world today.
No, that's especially the prices we're at now.
The way it is today. How it works is right now it's $25 down. So if you want to buy a unit today, it's $25 down. Okay. That holds your spot. Then we're going to come out in end of the year, right at the end of the year with the final, here's your final agreement, sign up. If you decide at that point in time, you know what, something's changed, I don't want in on this, we'll refund $15. We got to keep 10 because we spent 10 to put the system together. So all you're really putting at risk today is 10 bucks. 10 bucks a unit. And if you don't like it at the end, your 15 comes home. If you do like it at the end, before we break ground, roughly 30 days before we break ground, the balance of it will be owed. We made it as simple as we could. To be honest, when we first started this, I was hoping to have the producers own 60, 70% of this. We found there's not a lot of appetite for that, because then you're talking $500, $600, $700 a unit. I understand that. That's a lot of money.
Well, it sounds to me like you're not really looking at this co-op to give the bulk of your capital to build this plant.
Not.
You're ready to build the plant. You're just giving folks opportunity to get into the supply of the cattle.
The plant's going to get built no matter what, because what we've done in 2.5 years is we've found the debt, we found the equity, we're working on all these pieces of the pie. We've got the MPAP award from the USDA, which is the largest, the $25 million you can get from that to build more packing industry, right? So we've been working on all these pieces. At the end of the day, the $100 million, roughly, if you sell 520,000 units, that's come from producers, but that's a $500 million plant. So that's where you get your 20% ownership, give or take. It's a true equity play. And for us, that's the passion of it. The producers need to get involved so we have the final say in the outcome also. Anybody that's in the cattle industry should be in this. And I tell bankers, I'm talking to a lot of bankers, there's not a cattle feeder that I know that shouldn't take this opportunity. When you think about what it costs, if you return $25 a head just on, you know, once a year, it gets one space, but that's 5 years, your initial investment's back just off of that, and then you've risked nothing.
Right.
It's a low risk maneuver that opens up a top end. So we did a lot of data mining to find out how the math works. In the last decade, if you just take an average of how the industry has worked in the past, box beef versus what an average would be is about 61.3% of the box beef cutout is where the industry has averaged in the past. In fact, from 04 to 13, that was exactly what it averaged, 61.3. If you take that same number, extend it to today for the last 10 years, you'll find between what we sold our cattle for and what the packer had at 61.3, there's $206 on every animal of a margin that we didn't participate in. So I've heard a big pushback I've had is, well, if you're going to give the producer all the money, the pack goes broke. Well, I'm here to tell you, the numbers don't lie. You can do the data mining yourself and figure it out. There's $206 on every head we sold in the last decade on average that we didn't participate in that margin. I'm not saying it's all ours as producers. I'm just saying there's a buffer there that certainly there's a middle ground we should all partake in.
Right, right.
We've been told our whole lives, you do it our way, you don't get paid at all. Now we're sitting here saying, if you do it, if we create more value, we're going to pay you for it.
Well, Chad, thanks for all the information here about Legacy Beef Co-op and Cattlemen's Heritage. If folks are interested in making an investment or finding out more about this, where should they go?
Best place to go would be go to legacybeefcoop.com or cattlemensheritage.com. Either one will give you a link to go here to get the information.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all the information today and enjoyed the visit.
Thank you.